Number one, I think we look at, and someone touched on this earlier, I believe it was the chair of the Judicial Division, as we look at people who are the best and the brightest in terms of attorneys who apply to be clerks in the appellate court. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the number one in the class, because particularly what I look for is experience in life. What have you done? Have you spent your whole existence up to that point in time in a classroom, or have you gone out there in the world and try to do something? And the reason why is because we look at issues from all different perspectives when we have an issue presented to us in the appellate court. And it's not just a laboratory examination of a legal problem, but it's a real life situation. What was the trial court thinking? What were the trial lawyers doing here? Sometimes when you're looking at the black and white on the page, you have to also figure out, okay, if they're making an objection with regards to ineffectiveness of counsel, was it strategy? Was the lawyer really trying to maybe implement some type of strategical move here, or was it really totally ineffectiveness of counsel? And if you've had some opportunity to have some real life experience, that's what I'm looking for. So being the number one in the class, I don't want to discourage anybody who's number one in their class, but that doesn't in and of itself mean that you might get hired as a clerk. Number two, you have to be hardworking, willing to roll up your sleeves, to dig in there and to spend the time. Now I get in every morning at 7:30 and I usually leave at 6:30. Now, do I expect my clerks to work that hard? No. In fact, I encourage them to come in at 9 and leave at 4 and have a life. But I have one clerk who comes in early in the morning. She comes in, she's like shortly after I come in. And I have a clerk that stays late. So it's kind of works out that way. I don't require that of them, but they just do it on their own because they know that we want to make sure that the product that we put out is the best possible piece of legal work that we can do. So they're willing to spend in the time, not just come in and stamp the clock and leave. Going again to the experience for those of you that went to school later in life, one of my senior law clerks actually is a mom. She has an 8-year-old son. She worked for a while before she went to law school. My other law clerk had 6 years of legal experience. I have one student, well, he's not a student anymore, he just graduated from law school, but he worked a little bit before he went to law school as well. So for those of you who are saying, well, I'm not number one, don't let that discourage you, because we look at the total package. Also, you have to be willing to be versatile, open-minded. One of the things that I do is every week we have a meeting and we discuss legal issues that are coming up down the road, particularly in our jurisdiction. If the Supreme Court has come down with a recent decision, we'll spend some time and talk about it. And I want people to engage in a conversation, so I don't want them to feel, well, I can't, discuss this with the judge. I'm open to discuss any issue that I have. Secondly, you have to be willing to be adaptable. I know some judges only give criminal cases to some of their clerks, and some judges only give civil cases to some of their clerks because that's their bent. I tend to spread it around because, number one, you're not going to be with me forever, so I want you to get as much experience as possible. I want you to learn the civil end, I want you to learn the criminal end, I want you to learn the administrative end, the workers' comp part of the profession as well. I want you to be well-rounded. If you come out of my chambers only having expertise in civil area of the law, I may have done you some injustice. So I want to make sure that you're well-rounded, versatile in areas of the law. So this way, whenever you go, wherever you want to go, you have a full plate. So those are some of the things that I look at. More importantly, be professional, dress professionally, submit professional-looking resumes. I just received one the other day where there was misspellings. They misspelled my name, which was okay, but still, in terms of the writing sample, there was misspellings. So, proofread your materials before you send them over. And make sure that it's pristine, because we're going to look at it. Even if we don't have any positions open up in my chambers, the judges in my division, we talk, and if someone is going to be losing a law clerk, and I got a resume that looked pretty good, but I don't have an opening, I'll pass it along to my colleague, and I'll say, I don't have anybody leaving, but I got this one today, and this is really good. I mean, if I had somebody leaving, I would hire them. So I make sure that what you said is your best work, because again, bottom line is we want the best and the brightest, because we want to look good, and the only way we're going to look good is we have the best and the brightest. So I want to hire law clerks that are smarter than me, so they make me look good, because that's what it's really all about. So you got to make your judge look good. If your judge doesn't look good, guess what? Your judge gets voted out of office and you lose your job. So that's a reality.
Let me ask a follow-up question.
Yes.
So how many law clerks do you have? Do you have a senior clerk who's
Yes.
a permanent position? What's the turnover rate?
I have 3 clerks, although one of them we refer to as the slasher. This individual does administrative work, and that's why we call him the slasher, because it's a law clerk, it's a lawyer who's licensed and does write opinions for me, but at the same time does administrative work, letters, keeps the dockets, keeps our calendars to make sure that we are on time with everything. So I have 3 full-time clerks, and I tell them up front that if they're new, I give them a 3-month probation period, see how it's going. And then we do it another 3 months after that. But if everything works out, it's a 2-year commitment. Now, my one senior clerk, I just recently hired her, but the other one's been with me for 6 years.
Oh, okay.
So
they don't have a...
So even though it's 2 years, I don't necessarily push them out the door.
Okay.
I mean, if they want to stay, they're welcome to stay, and it makes my life a lot easier too.
And is that typical with your colleagues' office chambers, or is it?
Most of them, they have the same rule. Some of them do 3 years, some of them do 2 years. But if a clerk wants to stay, they don't push them out the door. The other aspect too is we're cognizant of what's going on in the economy, and we know how tough it is for young lawyers right now to get a job. So if we get somebody who's good, we're going to keep them. We're not going to push them out the door. Because again, if they do good work, we'll want them to stay on. And that tends to be the tendency in our court in Chicago.
But let me ask you this. In your jurisdiction, in the trial court level, how many law clerks, or do they have law clerks at the trial court level?
They have law clerks. I had a law clerk when I was at the trial court level. You get 1 law clerk. Some judges, depending on the workload, will have 2, but the majority of them will have one law clerk. One of the things that we have in Chicago, which I would encourage anybody who's interested, particularly those people from the Chicago area, is to get involved in the Judicial Extern program that we have in the circuit court. My law clerk has been with me 6 years. That's how I hired her. She started out as an extern, and she did great work. And then when my law clerk was leaving, I hired her to be my full-time law clerk. The benefit of the extern program is you get to work with the judges, you get to know the judges, you get to know what the system's like. You also get to show the judges the type of work that you do. And if they're going to be looking for a law clerk, they're going to go to people that they know, a known product. So you're going to want to hire from somebody that worked for you as an extern. And again, the same thing in the trial level. If there's been someone that's working really well as an extern, that's a person that you may recommend to another colleague if they're looking for a law clerk. So I had an extern this summer, and she did a great job, he did a great job, and I would recommend this particular student or lawyer.
Is there a particular time of the year when clerks turn over, if they're going to turn over, or does it not matter in your court?
No, it doesn't matter anymore. It used to be in the fall that they would transition out, but now it's whenever a job opportunity comes along, it's when the law clerks will leave.
All right.